All right, let's take a look at how we can use Minitab to calculate the confidence interval for a proportion, where perhaps you have to do just a quick arithmetic calculation to find what proportion of your sample has actually been a success or been the resultant value. This is actually not difficult. It just may not be immediately obvious that that's what you need to do in order to utilize Minitab. When you have a situation such as the one that's given here, that you'll need to use Minitab's proportion calculation. So let's take a look here. The table at the right shows the results of a survey in which 2,553 adults from country A, 1,107 from country B, and 1,060 adults from country C were asked if human activity contributed to global warming. So we need to construct 99% confidence intervals for each country. So let's take a look at how Minitab wants us to do it and see what information we have and what information we don't have and how we can calculate what we do not have. So when we go into Minitab, we're going to go under Stat, then we're going to look at Basic Statistics, and instead of going under one sample Z or T, we're going to come down to the proportion calculation. Because we're talking about a percentage, we're talking about a proportion of a value. So under proportion, we're using summarized data. We're not using data that comes out of a column. We're going to talk about number of events and number of trials. So, how many events do we have and how many trials do we have? We have in country A, we're talking about 2,553 trials, 2,553 trials. Now, how many events, or how many out of that, what proportion of that were successful events? Well, 61% were successful events, or 61% of those trials came out to be people that claimed global warming contributed. So let's find out what 61% of 2,553 actually is. So in order to do that, we just do some basic multiplication. We convert 61% into a decimal, and we multiply that times 2,553, and we get 1,557.3. So let's go ahead and just plug that in, 1,557. And then let's look under options and let's change our confidence level to the desired level, which is 99%. Click OK. Now, let me just show you something really quick here. Let's say I wasn't sure whether number of events was 2,553 or 1,557. And let me just reverse these for a second. Minitab is pretty smart. It knows that I made a mistake there, and it's going to tell me. It's not even going to do the calculation. It's not going to let me make a mistake. It knows that this one needs to be larger. The whole sample needs to be larger than the proportion, so which makes sense. It's pretty logical. So it'll stop me, and I can go back in and I can reverse that. So let's go back here and put it in correctly. And then if I click OK, there's my proportion. And it matches what my stat lab told me it should be. Now, it may be off just very slightly in this ending decimal here, and that's okay. It's just technology differences. If you're in my class and you're entering that in and my stat lab marks you wrong, I've told my students previously, but if you've forgotten, just email me. I can go in and adjust your score. I completely understand that there can be differences due to rounding and technologies, so that's fine, and it happens. It's just unavoidable. So let's take a look at question B. Let's construct the 99% confidence interval for country B. So we can either go back in under stat and basic stat 1 proportion, or we can do it the easier way and just go back under the edit last dialog box, which I like to do, and change the number of events and the number of trials. So in this case, our number of trials for country B was 1,107. So out of 107, we had 85%, but we need to calculate what that value is. So let's figure out what 85% of 1,107 is. So we're going to take 0.85 and we're going to multiply it times 1,107. And that equals 940 point something, and I rounded that one up. I think it must have been a larger decimal than 0.5. I have it written on my paper and I have it rounded up. So I'm going to put that in as 941. And let's see, I think my confidence interval was already set to 99. And let's see what that gives us. That gives us 0.82 and 0.8765. So yes, that's very close to what MyStatLab has, and probably they have a margin of error in here if you're entering it in for grading. But if it marked you wrong, again, you can email me and I can adjust your score. Let's just do a test. Let's put that in as 940. It's just 940, and let's see, I'm just curious, let's just see how much closer that gets you to what's in here. That goes to 819 and 875. So yeah, I think rounding up is always the right way to go. If you have that extra, we always want to round up on a sample size. So that's how we're going to do that. That's how you construct the population proportion when you need to create the confidence interval. So I hope this helps, and I hope it makes it a little easier on you.